Welcome to Spiritual Dialogues with Father Odon de Castro. We are here at Cariana Lay Monastic Community. I'm your host, Brother Lodi, and with us is Sister Tachi. Sister?
Yes, Father, we were discussing previously about the synod on the abuse crisis, is it? That nothing really came out of it, but it seems you have a surprise, or there was a surprise after that. A good one.
Well, yes, we have discussed about the last Vatican Bishop Synod on discussing about the crisis in the Catholic Church, especially in the Church of the United States. And we mentioned the fact also that it was Cardinal Tagle of the Philippines who gave the summary. He was probably one of the secretary of the synod, and so he read the results of the synod, and you can find that in YouTube. And evidently, he had no analysis of the problem, and there was no solution to the problem. And so he gave the impression that well, these are things that has to happen, because you just cannot do anything, be patient, and there is nothing to see here, let's go forward, something like that.
That it could not be avoided.
Yeah,
Is that
something like that. He gave the impression that there is no solution
No
to
solution.
this, and we have to be just sad about it and be patient over it, and let's try to just go forward in our lives.
Okay, Father.
And because that was the result of the synod in Rome, attended by the presidents of the bishops' conferences.
All over the world.
Yeah, all over the world. Huh? President of the bishops' conference all over the world. That's what it says, no?
Okay.
I don't know who attended and who did not attend.
Yes.
But so we were expecting that because the presidents of the bishops' conference were there, they could have at least given an analysis of the problem
Yes.
and some solution to the problem, because the problem is not new in the Catholic Church. So it's very easy to go back to the past and see how the Catholic Church handled this problem before. And so that was the attitude that was left for all Catholics, that this is a sad thing that occurred, but there is nothing much you can do about it. However, just a few weeks ago, Pope Benedict came out with a document which he wrote during the Bishop Synod.
Okay.
And he sent it to the Bishop Synod so they would know how to analyze the problem, and they would know the solution to the problem.
So it was timely. It would have
It
been
was timely, very timely. And he gave it, I think, through Cardinal Farolin and so on. And the strange thing is, not one of his ideas was discussed during the synod.
Parang it was ignored completely.
Completely ignored it when there was a analysis of the problem and the solution to the problem. So what Benedict did was, since they did not mind it, they did not even read it probably, and nobody knows about it. In fact, it was never published that there was such a thing, that Pope Benedict contributed to the synod. So Pope Benedict published it in not a very well-known newspaper from Bavaria, which is his place, of course. Probably had some influence there. He's from there, So they published it. And of course, because it was published, it was in German, the whole world came to know about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, it was really a big explosion. It was a big explosion because there was a analysis and there was a solution given. How come the Bishop Synod did not even deal with that analysis and solution? And so, of course, the idea came that How come Pope Francis did not tell us the solution and the analysis? And it was Pope Benedict, who is supposed to be retired, who did it. So people began to look at Pope Benedict as a real pope.
Oh, yes.
Precisely because of what Christ says, my sheep know my voice, and my sheep knows me. In other words, we heard the voice of Christ. We heard the voice of the shepherd, and we began to point our fingers to who probably is the true shepherd.
Yes, because Father, when after all that synod was supposed to solve the crisis, it was supposed to solve that problem, or at least give some solution. And as you said, no analysis, no solution, and let's go on. It sounded like just put it aside. Like you'd think, why did they even take it up if they had no intention of solving it?
And this was attended by presidents
That's what
of the
happens.
Bishops'
Yes.
Conference, and they were, of course, consultors and
Yes,
theologians
yes.
there.
And then you,
How come they did not analyze it properly? And how come there was a solution?
and
No,
how, excuse
yeah.
me, and how come they ignored
Yeah, they ignored it when it is written down.
Yes,
yeah.
it was sort of like a help, like let me help out with your, if I can.
It was very clear,
Yes.
and it's very simple. It was so simple that everybody is summarizing it and writing it down.
So now everybody's taken up that analysis and the solution.
And everybody knows about it now.
Okay.
And so they're asking, how come? Here is the analysis, here is the solution. How come Pope Francis, the Vatican, and the
The
heads
Synod,
of the Bishops' Conference
Conferences.
did not even mind it?
Yes.
Was there any reaction after the publication of Benedict's letter?
Everybody's angry. How come?
How about the ones involved?
The Bishop Conference.
How about the presidents, what he means?
Well, they're quiet because
I will also be quiet
they
if I
don't know
were.
what to say. Yeah, I suppose so.
I mean, yes, that's a kind of.
But the worst thing is the German bishops began to criticize it.
Oh,
Criticized the letter of
The letter
Benedict.
of Pope Benedict.
they put it down. They tried to put it down.
And of course, their criticism was very ridiculous in the
Okay.
sense that, when you criticize something, you tell us what's wrong with it. If Benedict's analysis is wrong, tell us what is your analysis.
Yeah.
And tell us why your analysis is better than Pope Benedict's.
Yeah,
You have to prove
that's
it.
right. But,
And they criticize also the solution. Now, if you're going to criticize a solution, tell us what's wrong with it.
And if you have a better one,
And if you have a better one, present it so we can listen to it. But they didn't do either. They simply criticized it, made fun of it, insulted it, etc. The usual thing.
and that was expected from the German bishops.
Yeah, and it was expected because Pope Benedict himself corrected the German bishops before for not being Catholic enough. And the German bishops, especially headed by Cardinal Casper and so on
okay.
like that, are really followers more of Martin Luther, really. I mean, the Germans never really left this heresiarch Martin Luther. They still follow him and they adore him, etc. And Pope Francis loves him very much, so much so that on the feast of Our Lady of Fatima, Pope Francis was more concerned with introducing a statue of Martin Luther into the Vatican than celebrating the feast of Our Lady of Fatima.
So you can see in what
So
direction.
everything
also.
is,
it's clear.
very clear, yeah.
Okay, Father. So
Now, for Catholics, they have to ask a question. Who's right? Is it the announcement of Cardinal Tagle? Is it the one that's right? Or is it the letter of Pope Benedict?
that's clear. For me, it's very for
But
Catholics. For real Catholics,
yeah.
that's clear.
I mean, it's the choice has to be made. We have to make the choice. No? We have to confess Christ or not. No, either for Christ or against Christ. So the question is that, but most Catholics cannot ask that question
Why?
because they cannot compare the answer of the Vatican Synod And the answer of Pope Benedict, they don't have a basis for comparison of which is right, because they're ignorant of the Catholic faith.
It should be the basis of any,
Should be.
yeah.
In other words,
Any
the
comment?
question is, which is more Catholic?
Yes.
Which is the Catholic analysis and which is the Catholic solution? But most Catholics do not know what are Catholic.
Ah, okay. What are the truths?
That's a pity.
Okay.
And so they wouldn't know who is right and who is wrong.
Would it, since we have not read the one of Pope, but I was just going to say, wouldn't it be just common sense that there is a solution, there's an analysis, and there's a solution. The other one had none at all. So wouldn't you want to look into the other one that had an analysis and a solution?
Well,
Or
that's...
would you rather close your eyes and say, oh, let's get to the other one?
You're right, that's common sense, really. Would you rather listen to one who said there was no solution
There's no solution?
than one who had presented a solution? So the big defect now is the fact that most Catholics do not know what's Catholic doctrine, and they don't know who is right and which is the Catholic analysis and which is the Catholic solution.
Okay.
But if we have any idea of true Catholicism, which fortunately I have because of my age.
Yes, Father.
Also we, because we have
You see,
age.
he agrees.
How about us? Because of our age also, Father. Is that as simple as that? No,
Because in this
Father.
community, the teaching of the fathers
I
of the
wish.
church. And the
Yeah.
doctors
But I wish, Father, then I know it also. If it's only age.
Well, at least I'm old enough.
Okay.
I heard
But
at least how the Catholic faith
you know.
sounded before.
You know.
Because I passed through popes who were very
Yes,
Catholic,
yes,
like Pope
yes.
Pius XII, which was the first pope that I came to know. And we know how the Catholic Church looked like because I studied my theology in the old-fashioned Catholic way, and so I have an idea.
The old-fashioned way is to read the doctrine of
No,
the writings of the fathers and doctors of the church.
Yeah, scriptures and the fathers of the church, of course.
Many
That's very, very
interpretations
basic.
of the scripture. Okay.
Even as a high school student, I was not yet a seminarian, I knew in the catechism that all Catholic truths come from scriptures and the fathers of the church, or
Yes.
tradition, they call it tradition. I knew that since I was high school. And so during theology, I was wondering how come we were not studying scriptures so much,
No.
and we were not studying the fathers of the church.
No.
In the seminary.
Not even in your time.
No, hardly.
I understand the Catholic Church when I read the writings of the doctors and fathers of the church, because they give the correct interpretation of every phrase of everything in the Bible.
Yeah, so in other words, the problem we have now with the priests and the bishops and the cardinals, the problem that is now being all over the States, United States, and all over the world, is a problem that has been in the Catholic Church before. Pope Benedict says he noticed it around the 60s, the 1960s. That's about Vatican II. But he said he noticed it during that time because he was very much involved in Vatican. But the history of the Catholic Church shows that this has been a problem in the Catholic Church since time immemorial.
Yes.
And we have discussed that, Father, when you talked about Peter Damian.
Yeah, Peter Damian.
1100s?
That's
you
right.
Say? 1100, you should say, yeah.
Peter Damian was a Benedictine. And so I knew he was trying to tackle these problems during his time. So it's nothing new. And so all I have to find out is whether we are doing it, the analysis, is it similar to the analysis we had before in the Catholic Church, and whether the solution is similar to the way we handled it before.
Probably they are not that energetic, or maybe they're quite lazy learning what was the solution before the crisis.
Well, fortunately, Pope Benedict wrote it all down.
So, Father, now we can get started.
Yeah. Because he wrote everything down of
Ignore
what should be
ignore
done.
the critics. Just get moving, so at least it can be resolved.
Yeah.
Wouldn't they? I mean, nobody's happy that there's a solution,
Well, everybody is in fact happy there is
Oh.
solution, and everybody,
except
the German bishops, well, they're almost a hopeless case.
yes, okay, forget it. Oh.
But sadly, many bishops' conference are similar like that. In other words, they will only listen to Pope Francis, who is giving the wrong solution.
Did he give, or if any?
Yeah. So anyway, let's go to the
Okay, to the
solution of Pope Benedict. And Pope Benedict says that the reason why this abuse crisis, because he says he cannot understand such a big crisis. Now, before this crisis was in the Catholic Church, the sins were committed within the Catholic Church, but it was just, minor.
Not in such major
Such great
dimension.
thing,
Yes.
that's right. And Pope Benedict says he was surprised because how serious this thing is. It's like an avalanche, like a superstorm that's coming, and he couldn't understand how come.
Excuse me, Father, we have only 1 minute.
So anyway, we are surprised why he could not understand why it was so great when during the time of Peter Damian, it was as great, if not worse.
Okay.
So there's a solution. This was a situation that exists in the Catholic Church before. It was solved, not very well solved, of course, not completely solved during the time of Peter Damian, but there was a solution. Solutions, it depends upon the person. If you're sick and a good doctor tries to heal you, if you don't like to be healed, you're not going to be healed.
No,
Yeah,
yes.
definitely, Father.
So even if Peter Damian gave the solution, it was not healed during his time. It was not.
They did not.
Did
really.
not find it.
They
But-
did not.
But he presented the solution
Yeah, which is good enough.
the way Benedict presented the solution.
It's not okay.
Probably in the next episode you could discuss that more so that we will understand better.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching Dialogues with Father Odon de Castro. This dialogue is the salt and light of our Lord Jesus Christ. Thank you and see you again, please.
Hosanna, Hosanna.